Hello and welcome. Today's video is going to be exploring problem-focused coping versus emotion-focused coping and how you can use each of those techniques to help you to better manage stress. Let's go. Problem-focused coping is the practical things that we do to try and solve an external problem or an external stressor. So what's an external stressor? An external stressor can be a person or it can be an object, right? So with problem-focused coping, we want to directly influence or control that external object or that external person, right? Obviously, in some situations, we can't do that. So in those situations where we don't have control or we can't physically manipulate something which is external to us, then all we have left is to manage our response to that external thing which is causing us stress, right? So the easiest way that I kind of explain this is think about a sliding screen door, right? So you got a sliding screen door, moves back and forward like that. You move the sliding door to the right, let's say. So you move it to the right, it gets stuck, you jiggle it around a bit, it comes off the rails a little bit. Now you can't move it backwards or forwards, right? It won't go either way, it's just stuck there. So what do you do in terms of problem-focused coping? Well, you might try and jiggle it around a little bit more. That doesn't work. So you might go and get a screwdriver, put a screwdriver in there, see if that works. That still doesn't work. Okay, so your problem-focused coping is not working in this situation, right? It doesn't matter what you do in this moment, you cannot solve this external problem. You cannot correct this external problem. So what's next? Okay, so you start feeling the anger, you're getting frustrated, it's like, oh, this bloody door won't move. Your emotions start increasing. So you need to engage emotion-focused coping, right? So emotion-focused coping, again, is managing your internal response to that external frustration. So in that situation, you might start some deep breathing exercises. You might say, okay, I've got to walk away for a bit. I'm getting too frustrated. I need to remove myself from the situation. That's how emotion-focused coping works. Emotion-focused coping, however, doesn't change or alter that external problem, right? So if you walk away from that sliding screen door, you take 10 minutes away, you go and have a cup of tea. When you come back, that frustration is still there, correct? It hasn't gone anywhere. You walking away doesn't mean that that sliding screen door has magically fixed itself. So what are your options? It's like, okay, now that I'm feeling a lot more relaxed, I'm feeling a lot calmer, I'm not as frustrated, let me engage problem-focused coping again. Well, how can I do that? Maybe I need to call a repairman. Maybe I need to get the right tools. Maybe I need to go down to the shop and buy the actual tools that I need to fix this door. Again, you might do those solutions and call around 10 people. They say, sorry, we're not available today, we can't come out and help. You get frustrated again, so you grab that door, you wrestle with it, rip it off and throw it into the garden. Yes, you've removed that stressor, right? That stressor is no longer there. It will become a stressor again when you got to explain why that screen door is now in the garden and not on the door where it should be. But for now, you've essentially eliminated that stressor, but you've done it in a maladaptive way, you know what I mean? So yes, you've used problem-focused coping by removing that external problem, but you've done it in a maladaptive way, which is ripping the screen door off and throwing it into the garden. So that's an easy way to kind of describe the difference between problem-focused coping and emotion-focused coping, right? When it comes to people, it's almost similar, right? So you might have an in-law, for example. You're married, you've got your wife's family or your husband's family. You have to see him every Christmas. You can't really get out of that without sort of starting an argument with your husband or your wife. These people are difficult. They're toxic. It doesn't matter what you say or do to them. You can't change or influence them in any way, shape, or form. You can set boundaries, right? But not everyone respects boundaries. So that kind of takes away that problem-focused coping aspect for you. So what do you do in that situation? Well, you don't have a choice. You just got to manage what's happening internally, right? So when you start to feel frustrated, when you start to feel flustered, you look internally again and say, well, I can't control or influence this outside factor. I can control and influence what's happening for me internally, right? So I can do some deep breathing exercises. I can go off to the toilet for 10 minutes and relax myself. I can put in a bit of music and help me calm myself down that way, you know what I mean? So emotion-focused coping is really, really good for those situations where you have limited or no control over those external factors. For most situations, though, we do have some sort of control or at least some element of influence, right? And that's where the problem-focused coping comes in. So if you look at the workplace, you have a colleague which is frustrating you and challenging you. You can problem-focus coping by going to your line manager and saying, hey, look, I'm having these challenges. with this person. I can't resolve myself. I've tried talking to them. That's not working. Can you intervene? If they can't intervene, if they say, well, that's your problem, you need to figure it out, and the workplace becomes really, really toxic, well, how do you engage problem focused coping then? Well, you look for another job. You know what I mean? You're trying to control or influence and remove that external stressor. And if the external stressor is a workplace, and it doesn't matter what you're trying to do within that workplace to remove the stressor, then your next option is, well, I'm going to look for another job. All right. If you're not in a position to find another job, maybe you live in a very small area, there's not a lot of work opportunities available, then you kind of have to survive within that work environment, as bad as it may be. A lot of people, again, are financially dependent on work. They can't just get up and leave a job whenever they want. So in that situation, doesn't matter what you do, that workplace is going to remain toxic. Again, emotion focused coping. How do I manage all of my emotions in response to this external factor, the toxic workplace, without becoming overwhelmed, without losing the ability to complete my work, which will obviously add more stress onto it. So that's the difference between emotion-focused coping and problem-focused coping, and when each of those aspects or each of those techniques are useful in each situation. Thank you.